Let's rock and roll. So today we are going to talk about intervals. We're going to talk about names of things. I'm going to try to keep it really simple, but compress complicated music theory stuff into simplified form so you can easily just talk about it and play it yourself. So on your guitar, you're going to see that you've got these frets, right? And these frets are separated by metal bars. So I guess the metal bar is the fret, right? But the spaces in between we commonly call the fret. So between this one and this one, this one and this one, and so on. My job today is to help you better understand what to call the distances between them. That's called an interval. So when you take something like this fret to this one right next door, well, we would call that a minor second or a half step. And we'll extend from there, so we'll talk more about what the distances are. Before we do, I just wanted to recap what a note is. So everything you hear in the universe can be translated to a note. Everything, every single sound, every vibration on the air can be represented as a note. We took the sounds of things, like my voice, for example. We took the sounds that are actually traveling on the air and hitting our eardrum, well, not hitting the eardrum, hitting the hair follicles that send a neurological signal, so it sends an electrical signal to your brain to tell you, hey, I recognize that, that's an F sharp. How the heck did we get from vibrations on the air, hitting the hair, and then going up to the brain in an electrical signal to us saying F sharp? It's a very complicated neuroscience concept, which I love, but as musicians, what we need to focus on is that we, as human beings, do an excellent job of taking certain sounds and making it seem unique, making it unique emotionally, making it unique in terms of a song or even a theme song. So say The Simpsons, right? Most people who have watched The Simpsons recognize that theme song right away. The Simpsons. And you can, just from hearing that, you can kind of remember The Simpsons. So that connection is because of the intervals. So that interval for the Simpsons theme is called a tritone, and it's noticeable because it's so weird and so different. And we'll talk about why that is. So here we go. Let's break down notes even more. When you have a keyboard in front of you or a guitar, when you have a musical instrument at your disposal, okay, you can play one single tone. Normally you can play one single tone and give it a name. So if you're at the keyboard, you can hit a keyboard tone, hit the key and look on a diagram, and you'll say, oh, that note right there is C. Well, same thing on your guitar, right? If you have your guitar, I know that on the E string, if I go to the 8th fret, that's C. But me being able to do that involves working my way up to it. So let's not beat around the bush any longer. Your first tone is called the tonic. It's the first thing that you're starting at. So if you're starting at C, that's your tonic. So 1 equals C. And normally you have 7 total tones, 7 notes in any typical scale. So in the Western world, we usually have 7 notes total in a scale. If 1 is C, then you would continue down the musical alphabet, C to D, from D to E, E to F, F to G, G to A, and A to B, and that would be the last note. So you have 7 total. It's a lucky number. The 8th note would be C again, which makes that octave, oct for 8. Tonic, by the way, the 1 is called tonic because that's the first tone, T-O-N, tone of what you hear first. So you pick a number 1. You pick a letter, C, and you go from there. So you start with C, that's number 1. Now D becomes 2, E becomes 3, F becomes 4, G becomes 5, A becomes 6, and B becomes 7. Intervals are going to involve those numbers. Let's get started. If you start with the 1, the tonic, it's just the tonic, so it's just 1, so you have C. But if you go to D, for example, look at the keyboard or look at your guitar or think about the sound. If you play a C note and then you play a C sharp note, that's not really a 2, right? The D is supposed to be 2 in the musical alphabet. But if you were to play that note that's in between C and D, that would be playing the smallest possible distance. Again, in terms of Western music and the way the guitar is constructed and the piano is constructed, the distance between the white key and the neighboring black key, or in the case of B and E, the neighboring white key. So that smallest distance is called a half step. Okay? The smallest distance is 1 fret, and that's a half step. A minor second is another word for it. So we call it a minor second because you're trying to go from your first tone, your C, to the next possible tone. In this case, it would be C to D flat. So it's the note in between C and D. And I'm saying D flat because I want to make the alphabet letter distinct. I want to make it C and D, not C and C sharp. So for the sake of simplicity, C to D flat, that little smallest possible step, is what I call a minor second. If I go to a regular D, C to D, so I skip over that little black note, now I have C to D major second. So in the case of the smallest step possible, it's a minor second. In a little bit bigger step, it's a major second. So that covers C to D, or C to D flat. But let's say I want to go from C to E. Well, now I'm climbing over the 2 tones that I just talked about. I'm going from C, not to D flat, and not to D, but to E. So now from C to E, I'm going 1 half step, 2 half step, 3 half steps, or to a third. And because it's a smaller third, it's just E, I'm going to say, if I go to E flat, then it'll be a minor third. And if I go to E natural, it's a major third. So C to D flat, minor second. C to D, major second. C to E flat, minor third. And C to E natural, major third. Okay? So pause there. Let's just iron that in. So grab your guitar and let's go to the 8th fret. Right here. That's C. Let me zoom in for you. All right. So if we're on the 8th fret here, that's C. If we went up 1 fret, that would be a minor second, or D flat. If I went up to D, which is 2 frets up, that would be a major second. If I went up to the next possible tone, 1 more half step, that would be a minor third. It's 3 frets, minor third, okay? It's E flat. If I went all the way to E natural, right here on the 12th fret, so from 8 to 12, from C to E natural, that would be a major third. Another very good way to connect to this concept is to think, if I'm starting on 8 and I just go up 1 fret, it's small, it kind of sounds a little odd. It sounds like the Jaws theme, right? So, and that sound is minor. But if you skip over this fret and use your ring finger, it sounds a little more hopeful. It sounds bigger, it's a bigger step, and that's what makes it major. And if I step farther, so I go up not 1, not 2, but 3 frets, it sounds a little bit smaller and a little more sad than the E natural, so this one up here. That sounds pretty happy. This sounds a little bit more dour. And your reaction is subjective, of course, so you're going to have your own unique kind of reaction to the way it sounds. But anyway, We now need to go beyond this. So we've established that from C to D would be a major second. C to D flat, the smaller one, would be minor. C to E natural would be the major third, and C to E flat would be the minor third. So that covers the 2 and the 3. But now we need to go from C to F to produce the 4. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, and now we need F on 13 here. So from C to F is what we call a perfect fourth. It's just a little bigger than a major third. It's onto that fourth alphabet letter, F, and it's perfect. It's very well balanced. It sounds good. If we take this just one little step more, so we go from C to F sharp, that's where we get the Simpsons theme again. So C, F sharp. That's another kind of 4. It's called an augmented 4, or a sharp 4, or, and most commonly referred to, tritone. So from C to F sharp is a tritone. It is the middle point of the octave. And I'm sure you can hear the Simpsons theme right now. The Simpsons. So that brings us to the next possible note. From C, we went to D, which was major 2. From C to E was major 3. From C to F was perfect 4. And now we need to go to a G. So we skip over that F sharp and go to G. And that's what we call a perfect 5, a perfect fifth. So C to G, perfect fifth. Now that's the only kind of fifth we're going to talk about. Just perfect fifth. C to G. Fifth alphabet letter. Now to go to the next note, we're going to go to the next fret, which will be A flat. So from C to A flat. That's called a minor 6. If we go C to A natural, that's called a major 6. We only have 2 more notes. If we go C to B flat, C to B flat, that's a minor 7th. And if we go C to B, that's a major 7th. And then one little more fret, one fret up there, is C again. So again, the intervals are based on steps, the smallest of which is a half step. Every single fret on the guitar is a half step. There is no breaking this rule. Every single one, so everywhere on this guitar is predictably a half step, also known as a minor second. Later, since you're advanced guitar, we're going to get into how to read the distances between strings, how to see what the distance is going to be. And that's really, really important. Not only for you to be able to improvise, but for you to feel confident playing around and knowing where you can safely jump to. If you don't know the interval distances between the strings, you can't do that. So we're going to work our way into it. For now, we're going to work on one string and really understand what those intervals are. Again, a half step or a minor second is just 1 fret distance. A major second is 2 frets distance. A minor third is 3 frets distance. A major third is 4 frets distance. Then we have a perfect fourth right after that, so that's 5 frets up. Then we have the tritone, the Simpsons tone, 1 fret above that. And we have a perfect fifth right after that. If we keep going, we have the minor 6. There's the minor 6. One more is major 6. Then we have minor 7. And then finally major 7. and then the octave note. So take this time to practice all of your strings and just pick an arbitrary spot and then try to figure out what the note is. And once you've got that note, build your own intervals. So walk your way through it, just like we did with the chromatic scale. If I pick this spot right here on the E string, that's B. I just know that, but you might have to walk your way up. So you go to the headstock, open E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, and B. So that's where you start, on B. And then you can play around with how you want to use the alphabet letters. So on B, it's going to be really kind of funky, right? We go B, and if we go a minor second, it'll become C. Then if we go a minor third, it'll be D. And so being able to recognize that that's what those are called is very important for you. Minor second, major second, minor third, major third, and so on and so forth. So go play around with it, experiment, and see if you can figure out what those notes are called at each interval type. So minor second, major third, minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, tritone, perfect fifth, minor sixth, major sixth, minor seven, and major seven, because those are the only notes we have. We're back in action and we're talking about intervals today. So let's step it up a bit. And instead of playing on one string, let's play on several. So for example, let's say you just played around on one string and you were trying to figure out, oh, what's this, what's that? Well, remember, we only have those 7 possible notes to play in a scale. And we've done that before. We played the natural note scale, chromatic scale. Now, the chromatic scale involved a lot more than 7. It was a lot more than 7 notes, right? So in this case, we're going to play not just on one string, but on 2. If we play the E note, and then we play the A note, the next string, that's an interval distance, and we just did it. It's the same as going from the open string on E to the 5th fret. Now, let's figure out what that interval would be called. So, open E, minor second here on the 1st fret, then major second on the 2nd fret, right? Minor third would be on that 3rd fret. Major third would be on the 4th fret. Perfect 4 would be on the 5th fret. Well, there we go. That answers our question. So to get to A here, we needed to play a perfect 4th. That means that the E string to the A string is also that distance, a perfect 4th. And guess what? Most of the strings are like that. So from A to D, it's the same thing. For A string to the D string is a perfect 4th. And from the D string to the G string, same thing, perfect 4th. If you don't know what I mean by perfect 4th, just remember, you start with one note, the first one you play, so E, and then you count that as 1, and you go up the alphabet, so E, F, G, A. Right, so I counted on my hand to 4, and A was the 4th. Okay? And then from A, I went to D, right? D would be the perfect 4th up, because I just go A, B, C, D. D is 4. Now, it doesn't always work with the alphabet letters. Sometimes you're going to have flats and sharps, and that's okay. But for now, we're going to just talk about this. From D to G, same thing, right? D, E, F, G. G was 4. Now, with G to B, it's an interesting thing, right, on this guitar. If you go G to B, what is that? Let's try it. So play the open G. Then the 1st fret gives us A flat or G sharp. So that would be 1 minor second, 2 would be major second, 3 would be minor third, 4 would be major third, and 5 should be perfect 4th, right? That sounds right. But why isn't that B? Well, let's go note by note. G sharp, A sharp, B, C. So the 5th fret is C here, which means that the G to the B string is unique compared to the rest. From G to B is actually not a perfect 4th. It is a major 3rd. But once we go back to the B string, so B to the E string, it goes back to being a perfect 4th up. If you don't believe me, let's walk our way up. So we have B here, open, then 1st fret gives us C, minor 2nd, right? So B, minor 2nd. That would be major 2nd, minor 3rd, major 3rd, perfect 4th. And what are the notes? B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, and E. And that's how you can check to see if your guitar is in tune with itself, is holding down that 5th fret position on a string and then playing the string right below it. The only exception is that G to B string where you have to go down by 1 fret because it's not a perfect 4th, it's a major 3rd distance between G and B. And then back to the 5th fret for B to E. Hopefully that makes sense. It's not actually complicated once you memorize and get comfortable with the names of each interval. So, right, let's just do it real quick again. You have the tonic, minor 2nd, major 2nd, minor 3rd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, tritone, perfect 5th, minor 6th, major 6th, minor 7, and major 7. And then octave. All right. So now let's try not only playing between 2 strings, let's skip over a string. So if we play the top E string, then we play the D string, so we skip over the A. What is that interval? E to D. Well, we just did that here. We went. So it's really high up, right? So we go E, really high up here. Well, you can go from the bottom again and climb up and figure out which one it was. Or you can step down from the top. So if E is here on the 12, I can step down by 1, and that's going to be a major 7th up, technically. And then 1 more gives me D, which is a minor 7th up. So that's a minor 7th. Okay? So that's what's happening between your open E and open D strings. A minor 7th interval. So you've got E to A, perfect 4. You've got E to D, which is minor 7. And then on the next string, so skipping over not just A, but D as well, and going to G, well, E to G is a particular interval. Let's figure out what it is. So E, minor 2nd, major 2nd, minor 3rd. So it's a minor 3rd interval. Here's G, right? E, F sharp, G. So between E and the G string is a minor 3rd interval. And again, we go from E to the B string. That's going to be a perfect 5th interval. Why? Because if I count up to B on the string up here, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, it gives me B right here. If I do it by interval, I memorize this spot, 7th fret, open, minor 2nd, major 2nd, minor 3rd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, tritone, perfect 5. So 7th fret on that E string gives me that perfect 5th. Well, that 7th fret is B. So that open B string is that perfect 5 interval up. So now you have the terminology and you can figure out, I know what the distances are now. I can talk about what those distances mean. So if I'm hearing music that goes like this, I'm empowered enough to say and informed enough to say that's a minor 2nd interval. And likewise, if you hear something bigger, like you might not know right away because you don't have the training, but you can reason out. That's pretty high up. And you'll start to get a bigger scale and range for the tones and start to identify how big of a distance it is. And then you can call it by name. So that perfect 5 interval. Okay, so with that, go practice, go play between the different strings and try to figure out what the intervals are. Maybe between the A and G string, right? Or the A and the B string. And soon you'll start to get more confident.